Morning, everyone. Thanks a lot, Vinita, for that introduction. I think I'm following two extremely high energy speakers, so I'm going to try and, maintain the tempo. I definitely can't up it from where it was. My topic today is, best practice sharing when it comes to Wipro's initiatives in the area of gender diversity. And, I'm going to approach it in a slightly different way. I think the way Wipro looks at gender diversity and the way we have philosophically wanted Wiproites to think about gender diversity is not about doing a favor to women or, we heard the earlier speakers talk about this whole reservation concept for women, have more women at the workplace. Because that's what is the right thing to do. That's what is the politically correct thing to do in today's day and age. I think we wanted to think, we wanted our business heads, managers, across levels to look at this as an extremely good business idea. This is something that's going to impact their bottom line, and I think this has been demonstrated to them through data and through metrics over the years. So much so that now they have really come to believe in it as one of the tools they have at their disposal to actually make their own project teams more successful. So having more women makes good business sense, is something that is very deeply ingrained in each Wiproite today. That is the way we have approached it. What is the business case for us when it comes to Wipro, and gender diversity? The first and foremost is that we want to attract the best talent. So, it doesn't have to be a man or a woman. We're basically looking at the best talent that is available. And, if everything is equal in two different candidates of different genders, then yes, we will opt for the woman. Because it has taken so much more for that woman to reach that position of equality with, the male candidate or her male counterpart, and all that she has had to put in terms of effort. We definitely feel that the resilience factor is going to be more, when it comes to this lady. That's the first thing that I'd like to talk about. The second thing we have seen in our industry, and I think, it may be true for many other industries increasingly, is that it resonates with our customer. When you have an all-Indian male delegation meeting a customer versus, having women on that delegation, I think it just from the word go, you have an advantage over competition, right? There are, when I have experienced customer delegations coming to Wipro, typically see many women in those customer delegations. It could be from any part of the world outside India. Could be, the customers could be American, could be from the APAC geo, could be Europeans, pharma companies, media and entertainment organizations, financial services. We mostly see more and more women customers showing up for these meetings. So having an all-male side, when it comes to representing Wipro, just doesn't make good business sense. The moment you have a woman, and I can see that when I'm invited to speak to customers or to make a pitch to customers on Wipro's HR policies, there is that increased confidence that my male colleagues have, that, okay, we also have one of those. You have so many senior women on your side, but we've got, our own set of women who make a difference to the workplace, who we have been able to, help continue right up to senior levels within the Wipro management. So I think that, it resonates with customers. That goes without saying. It promotes innovation at the workplace. We've seen more women come up with ideas that are innovative, that are a little different from, just suggestions that are very, very much looked at through a very off the beaten track. And for this, I don't mean to say that, men only have very tried and tested ways of looking at things, but it's just that it brings in that bit of innovation. And so many times it's been said that we could have avoided the financial crisis that came with the fall of Lehman and so many other big companies if there were enough women in those rooms when decisions were being made. So we've seen this innovation come in teams which have more women. And I think our managers have seen it too. So it's been proven beyond doubt to them that, they really don't need any more convincing, is what we feel at Wipro, when it comes to why they should have women on the team. Now, that having been taken care of, I think we move to the next stage, in our evolution on gender inclusivity, which essentially meant that is all that we are doing? You know, are we being able to address what the women want? I mean, we are doing stuff like creches, we are doing stuff like, you know, have your family day and, you know, whatnot, to make sure that they're more comfortable at the workplace. But is that what they're looking at? And, you know, we partnered with an agency to do a very widespread survey within Wipro, and see whether, you know, what we were doing were the right things. And what we found out really surprised us. Women had very diverse requirements at different stages of their own, you know, career story. So if you look at the early stagers, right, these are people who Mr. Pai said, and the speaker before me also said that, you know, we hire almost 60% women today from campuses. For engineering graduates, that would be more like 45 to 50% women, but we run a graduate program where, you know, we take students who are just BSc graduates from college, and over there, the women representation is 60%. And in some certain batches, certain years, it is as high as 70%. Because we have a lot of graduates who are available in that pool, and many of them are girls, and very eager to join the workforce, very eager to, you know, get exposure. So at that stage, their primary requirement is that I want to do different types of work. I want to do challenging work. You know, I don't mind, you know, moving to a different city because, you know, my parents are cool with it and I have no other responsibilities, not married at this stage. So, you know, much more willing to experiment with their careers, looking for the right, you know, mix of projects that they can do so that their experience portfolio is really rich. This set, you know, we had to look at them extremely differently. We had to make sure that we were rotating them every year and giving them the kind of exposure they were looking for. But when you kind of move to the mid stage, which is, you know, which we typically refer to as life stage 2 for this career woman, we realized that, you know, now there is a family that has come into the picture. There is, you know, there is a requirement for flexibility, right? And these are women who are actually asking you, where are your policies that allow me that flexibility? And most of us have those policies in place today. I think it was more of the usage and the unsaid things about utilizing these policies. So if I utilize it, am I going on to the mommy track, you know, in the organization? Am I not going to get those really roles that I would aspire to do? Am I going to get roles that are back end, more of support kind of thing when I come back from my maternity leave? I think we addressed those issues by making sure that we had a deep connect with these women while they were away from the work, you know, and letting them know about really roles that somewhere matched with their aspirations. These weren't roles they had to settle for, so to speak, right? So this is what is available, this is what gives me flexibility, so therefore I better just keep my mouth shut and just take this role, right? That wasn't the approach at all. So they had a roster of roles that was given to them. They could choose from it, choose which ones really appeal to them, and then go for that. And I think our return, surprisingly, you know, the returning mothers who actually sustained, you know, their employment with us took a jump start. You know, it moved from women, 60% of the women staying back and continuing their career, to close to 85 to 90% actually continuing in the jobs. So, you know, what we think is that, you know, you just park them in a role and they're going to be happy. They probably think it's not worth that. You know, if they're not learning, they're not getting challenged on a daily basis, it's probably not worth leaving their family and child behind and actually showing up at work every day. So a part of that whole puzzle was to give them the kind of work that kept them coming, kept them thinking that, you know, it's been worth it, whatever I'm leaving behind, and coming and making their effort to come to work, even while I have a toddler at home. You know, it makes sense to me, it makes sense to my career. So those were the mid-stage women. We then looked at life stage 3, where, you know, all those, I wouldn't want to call them hurdles, but, you know, all the responsibilities, so to speak, of life stage 2 had been crossed, and women were now in a position where they could have then, you know, looked at dropping off the workforce for very different reasons. It could be because, you know, now my husband is senior enough, and, you know, there is enough. So at least for the money, I don't need to kind of go out and work, right? Typically in the IT sector, if you've got both of them working in well-paying jobs, so it has now reached a stage where my husband's requirements in terms of travel, etc., have increased. So do I need to also continue to be there, right? The reasons why they would continue were very different, is what we realized. They needed to have that kind of exposure, the kind of the whole leadership context to their roles, where they felt they were influencing much more than just doing a job, right? So they had to be given those kind of roles in a very, very program managed way. I think this is where we found, our answers to retaining and increasing the presence of women in this whole leadership pipeline. Don't look at them as one size fits all. Look at them, through the lens of the different life stages they're going through, and that resonates with them. So that was the one big learning that we had. Of course, there are, I program manage the mentoring program for women in Wipro. I think the mentoring program has been in place now for more than 3 years. We have put, we've had more than 350 to 400 women who have benefited from this program. Most of our mentors have been men managers, male managers, simply because they are the ones who are actually there in larger numbers at the senior levels. I think, the interesting part of the mentoring program is what I would, really want to share with you in this forum, is that the men actually come back saying that they've learned more from that mentoring relationship than the women. Because they've realized that, women do look for, they are very ambitious when it comes to what it is that they want next in their careers. Most of them would think of quitting a job or changing jobs for higher pay, for example, right? So if they're unequitably compensated, that is an issue. It's not something they will just settle for, right? So let's stop looking at them through that lens, saying that, okay, here it is. If they're able to get a work-life balance and they get something that is interesting, we'll be able to retain them. No. I think people also realized, with this mentoring relationship in place, that there is this whole thread of, the women are much better than they believe they are, right? Sometimes. There are a lot of mental blocks about what they will be able to do or what they won't be able to do going forward, which requires a sounding board, somebody to talk to and somebody to guide them in those very crucial decision, at those very crucial decision points. So that's where the mentoring program has worked for us. We've had some bit of, some people saying, okay, this particular mentee doesn't work for me or this particular mentor doesn't work for me, but those have been very few and far between. Women senior mentors are much more sought after by women in mid-management, because I think they look at them as people who've been through all those challenges and have really reached where they are. So not surprising that I think the women who have reached senior levels in the organization, very clearly they feel a sense of responsibility, and they feel that, if they have been able to make it so far, why is it that, we have just an 8% representation of women in general manager and above grades? We should have more women coming in, and I think the work they have done with respect to actually increasing the levels of ambition of women in mid-management has been phenomenal. In short, we've put in certain efforts that have, that have yielded results. We won the best IT. We won the award from NASSCOM for gender inclusivity and diversity practices in 2010, and that was a kind of a reaffirmation in the kind of work that we were doing in this area. There is a lot of work that Wipro does, through the foundation that actually influences the girl child at a very, very early stage. I think also working towards the quality of teachers that we have in schools today, right? Because that goes wanting. You have a lot of people who tend to opt out of primary education, and many of those are girls. So the foundation in parallel works a lot and does a lot of work in terms of getting more girl children into the classroom. We've got a tie-up with governments in Karnataka, in Uttarakhand, and we are starting with some bit of work in UP now. So we hope to influence, to kind of increase our sphere of influence through the foundation and Mission 10X, which essentially talks about increasing by 10 times the number of teachers, qualified teachers who are available for these schools. So those are efforts that are done by the foundation, and we hope to see the outcome of that in the coming years. Yeah, so that was it from my side. I think the key message that I would like to leave this forum with is, I read Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In, that talks about, if you lean in, the world kind of reciprocates, and that's what we tell women who have reached middle management. Don't give up your seat at the table, lean in, and you will have people who will respond and welcome that approach. So thanks a lot for your time.
We have just been joined by Mr. James Evans of the Foreign Commonwealth